Should you be flying with unstable blood sugar? I got a hot take. There is one instance, and only one instance, when you should fly knowing that your blood sugars aren't as stable as they could be. Now, if you're watching this and you work for the FAA, you're probably thinking, slow down, buddy.
License revoked.
But what I'm about to say, it's not what you think I'm about to say. So hear me out. I'm Connor, and if I have diabetes and fly planes, then so can you. Flying with unstable blood sugar, coming up. This is the Flyabetic. Flyabetic. Okay, you watch the intro, you think I'm crazy. Why on earth would I say something like that?
Safety is paramount for the FAA. Unacceptable recompense will not stand.
Tell you why. Bottom line up front, it is your responsibility to know how your body is going to react in the air when your blood sugar dips or when it gets too high. Diabetes is a fickle disease. If the FAA has granted you a special issuance, that's good. It means that your blood sugars are pretty stable, but you cannot write off the possibility that your blood sugar could go low during flight. So I'm going to contextualize something here. What I'm about to say should not be misconstrued as finding reasons to go fly when you really shouldn't be flying. What I'm going to talk about is about emergency purposes only. The one time that you should ever go up in a plane when you know your blood sugars are a little less stable than you'd like them to be is with a CFI. I remember there was a day when my blood sugar wasn't great. It wasn't bad, it wasn't dangerous, but it wasn't ideal, it wasn't stable that day. I had a flight lesson scheduled, and I texted my CFI. I was like, hey man, look, I'd love to fly today, but I'm having some blood sugar issues. I'm thinking we might need to cancel, however, I want to run something by you. So I told him, my blood sugars aren't dangerous, but they're just a little frustrating and they're not super stable right now. They're kind of going either up or down a little bit. Again, not dangerous. I said, would you be willing to take me up in a flight, just in the practice area? We'll do our normal maneuvers, but I want to let you know there's a chance that my blood sugar could drop below 80. Just a side note, I always keep candy and actually juice on me when I'm flying. I said, just spitballing here, but I feel like I should know what it's going to be like if something bad does happen to me in the air and I need to make a decision and I'm on my own. I totally expected my flight instructor to be like, no, that's crazy. If you have any prior knowledge of, your condition getting worse, you shouldn't go up. But he was interested in the idea. He was okay with it because he understood that if something did go wrong, he was there. I further explained to him that my goal was to establish a standard operating procedure for if my blood sugar does go low in the middle of a flight. What do I do? He said, nope, I think this is a great idea. You do need to understand standard operating procedures for situations like this. I said, great. And also, if my blood sugar doesn't go low in the middle of the flight, we just get to do maneuvers. Nothing wrong with that. He said, deal, and we went out and did a flight. Now, I check my blood sugar at the beginning of the flight, and I check it in accordance with all FAA regulations according to my medical certificate. It was well within range by the time we took off, but I had a hunch that day that it was going to drop a little bit low. Sure enough, 15 minutes into the flight, we're doing slow flight, and I can tell that it's starting to go down a little bit. I look down at my insulin pump, boom, 75. And inching down just a little bit. I ate a candy bar, drank some juice, and during the time that my blood sugar was recovering, my instructor Brian and I established a plan of what I'm going to do during a VFR flight if that should ever happen again. One thing that I should clarify here is that one of the reasons we did this flight was to simulate a real-world environment in which I experienced the symptoms of lowering blood sugar while I am in the cockpit, behind the controls, in the air, and in charge of the plane. Brian and I wanted to create a recognition tripwire, which is then followed by a mental documentation of what I'm feeling, which in turn prompts a checklist. So we practiced a couple of solutions, and then in the debrief we wrote some things down. And I developed my own standard operating procedure for how to deal with this situation. Here are my recommendations for you if your blood sugar ever starts dipping in the middle of flight and you're feeling a little bit shaky, or maybe you have some brain fog. Remember, the number one priority is safety here. So here's what we worked out. The acronym that I came up with is RED-C. So, recognize, evaluate, decide, and checklist. Recognize your symptoms. Understand what's going on. Now, when you're flying the plane, you should always be on the alert for any symptoms that may come up so that you can run this checklist and so that you can be a safer pilot. It doesn't matter what you're feeling. Are you feeling shaky? Do you have brain fog? Are you having trouble sort of remembering some items? Once you recognize the symptoms, then you move on to evaluate. And this is sort of a checklist in and of itself. It's kind of like you're running the PAVE checklist, in the middle of flight. You're reevaluating yourself as the pilot in command. Next, make a decision. And I know this is so much easier said than done, but I really do urge you to make those difficult calls, to divert the plane, land as soon as possible. Even if you think that you could get by with the situation, that's not what it's about. It's about being safe. Even if that means I'm like a 2-hour drive from home, at an airport with a landing fee, I don't have a car, I can't hangar the plane, I have to pay for it to sit there overnight, I have to get to work the next morning, and that plane's a rental, and somebody's scheduled to fly it tomorrow. If safety is at risk, always divert. After that, whatever you decide, run your checklist. And I'm not just talking about the checklists for your plane, although you should run those too, but the first thing that you should run is the checklist that you should have written down prior to flying as a diabetic that A, conforms with your medical letter about how to get your blood sugar back into control, because there's very specific language about what you're supposed to do, how many carbs you're supposed to eat, and then anything extra that's really going to help you out. Set yourself up for success in that situation. So run that checklist first. Are you diverting? Okay, what do you do to get your blood sugar up? What do you do to get yourself feeling better so that you can set yourself up for a good landing at the nearest airport so that you can communicate with ATC? What's that going to look like? You should put a list together for yourself before you fly, anytime you fly, so that you're ready for that. Or are you going to keep on flying? Do you realize that, hey, it's just a little bit of the shakes. I'm going to slow the plane down, put in a notch of flaps, put it into a slow right-hand turn, standard rate, get my blood sugar up, and I know that if I'm feeling shakes, that I'll be okay once the blood sugar goes back up, and then I can continue. Run that checklist. That's really what I'm talking about here. They're your own personal checklists. Now, sort of as an important note here, one thing we talk about when we're learning to fly the plane is, stay ahead of the plane, right? Don't get behind. Well, low blood sugar can really have an impact on that, can't it? Because all of a sudden, you've been thrown this situation that you absolutely have to take care of, like right now, because, it's so vital. And yeah, there's a chance that some other things could come at you that you would have to deal with in the middle of a flight. So, what do? And I really want to emphasize that one of the best tools you can have in your pocket is just slow that plane down, put in a notch of flaps, put it into a standard rate, left or right turn, and just do some slow 360s. I can't emphasize how much this has helped me as a brand new VFR pilot. And not just as a diabetic either, but even when I'm out in the practice area and I'm feeling a little rusty and I know that I have to contact ATC soon because I'm on my way back, just, take a deep breath, think, don't rush into it. It's that antidote to that toxic attitude that we learn, impulsivity, right? So just keep impulsivity in mind and the antidote to that when your blood sugar goes low in the middle of flight. Just slow down, take your time, take a deep breath, wait until you feel better before you make decisions. Just press down on the right side of the yoke, let the plane do some slow standard rate turns. That's it. That's everything. That's all I got.
You heard it. I said it.
If you're still watching, thanks for watching. And if you're a diabetic that thought you could never fly, I'm here to tell you, you can. I've been saying this for a while, but a good red-bearded friend of mine told me I should put it in the end of every video. So I'm gonna start doing that. James, looking at you. Life is short and money is fake. Come fly with me. I'm the FlyaBetic.
I'll be departing the pattern, headed back to the northwest. Sure, no traffic.